Hi, and welcome to Source Seers. I'm Love.
And I'm Tylynn. We're two Los Angeles-based witches who were brought together by fate with one mission.
To translate wisdom from Source and provide spiritual knowledge for the collective.
We're here to explore psychic stories, pop culture predictions, trauma healing, ancient knowledge, astrology, tarot, and so much more.
Source Seers is here to shine the spotlight on how the mystical realms are interwoven into the very fabric of our everyday lives.
Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Source Seers. Today we're actually talking about like a fun story time topic. We're going to be talking about a few of our past lives that we have encountered together. I'm only laughing because they're very traumatic.
We'll get into it.
Yes. So we'll make sure to give everyone trigger warnings and what the trigger warning is for, like right before we mention it or right before we go into it, just in case you get triggered by those things. But generally, it's like all the trigger warnings just up top. It's like assault, addiction, suicide, death, sexual stuff. There's a lot in the two past lives that we have done as readings with each other.
This is exactly why I tell all of my clients, please be in a grounded, good mental and emotional place before we do any work with past lives, because a lot of dense karmic stuff can come up when we are diving into past life work. But it's really important to know these things when you are in a place where you're ready and you can handle all of the trigger warnings, because then you can see, okay, how are these patterns still looping in my life today, which is what we benefit from when we're doing work with past lives.
Yeah, when we did my past life together, like Tylynn was crying, I was crying. I was like a couple days, I was like, I need to integrate this. Like, this was a lot to hear, and like I was seeing it and experiencing it. So so past lives. Let's like do like a general, what are past lives? How do we connect with them? Why would we connect with them? What are your beliefs on these things?
So it's interesting because tapping into the theme of past lives, I understand that time is nonlinear. So we have access to all of our lifetimes all at once. This is exactly why when the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once came out, a friend of mine was like, you have to see this movie, because she was literally like, this is the work that you do. It's like you tap people into all of the different versions of self. But because we're here in this human experience, we experience time as linear. So it's like, oh, this happened in this particular time frame between this year to this year. So it's important to understand that, because I have this phrase that was coming through of Akashine, which essentially means shining in one's multidimensional essence, because when you understand these different past lives, yes, it does come with all of the traumatic things, the pain, the wounding, but it also comes with all of your innate gifts. And that's the beauty of understanding your past lives, is understanding I incarnated with all of these beautiful gifts. That's why you see some souls come into this lifetime and they just naturally know like how to play the guitar. And like, it's like, how do you know this so naturally? And it's because past lives, you know, being in these fields and learning these skill sets. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a really heavy topic, but it is one that has really shaped my practice. So, and it's something that comes natural to me. I know some clairvoyants, they have the gift of seeing into future timelines and into future possibilities. But my gift has always been like going into the past. And that was before I'd even like discovered the Akashic Records. It was really when I had first got attuned to Reiki healing, I would do these sessions for clients and so vividly see these past life memories. And what's so wild is like even in some of these sessions, like I would have very physical, because I'm also clairsentient, so I'd feel it in my body, like something happening to the body, and then the client would also experience whatever that thing was happening to the body, because it needed to be cleared, right? Or the pattern needed to have awareness brought to it so that we can understand it and clear it in this life. So it's a lot, but we're really happy to be having this discussion today because it's so valuable when you understand your soul in this multidimensional way. And that is my vision for the future for humans, to understand who they are, like their innate gifts, right?
Yeah, and I feel like there's multiple like schools of thought, because I've had some clients, being a human design reader, right? With human design, your incarnation cross or your purpose, some people have a personal destiny and some people have a more collective destiny. And I feel like those that have the more collective destiny are more interested in past lives. They're more open or sensing what past lives they had when they come into this lifetime. And they have this just like unspoken like connection to all of humanity and its history and its knowledge. And then I've had certain clients that are like, I don't see any value in looking in my past lives. That was the past. I want to leave the past in the past and I want to move forward. And I think that some people, they're just like, I really want to focus on whatever my lifetime is here. I really want to be present in what I'm learning and what I'm here to do in this lifetime. And then some people are like, no, I feel like if I look, you know, it's like there's like a famous saying, I'm gonna botch it, but it's like something about like, if we don't look at history, we're doomed
it's gonna
to
repeat itself.
Yeah. And so some people have like more of that kind of point of view, where it's like, if I look at my past lives, then I can see, like you said, the patterns that I'm carrying and I'm repeating that I don't even know, and I can move through them a lot easier. And that's why I think it's important how you're saying to be really grounded before you do it, because this is not just like a skip the line type of thing where like, oh, well, I can just get a bunch of past life readings and figure out all my past lives and then know like all my wounds. But it's like some we don't need to look into in this lifetime. Some are not affecting us in this lifetime or not necessary. Maybe we worked through them in another timeline. Some like it might just be like super traumatic to re-experience and to know everything. Because I think you know, different ways that we can connect to past lives. If you do like past life regression, like Tylynn is able to do past life regression, that's a modality she offers. It's more visceral, like you see it, you are kind of put in this hypnotic state where like you can feel and see and experience almost like first person point of view. That can be a lot for certain lifetimes. Sometimes it's better to just get like a reading, like I channel the Akashic records and I see it and then I share it with clients. I feel like that's like a little easier if it's like intense or really traumatic on the nervous system, then I can just tell you like what you need to know. Or sometimes it just comes up like in a regular reading. Like I've been lately like just picking up on people's past lives, not even intentionally, but it's just like, oh, you just need to know this message or this thing from your past life, and you don't need to go into all the details. You just need to know this is the wound that you're carrying, and boom, you know, like that's enough. So there is like a spectrum for like if you want to see it all or if you don't want to see it all. I know sometimes people, when they do like psychedelics, they'll start seeing their past lives too, and that's like super super vivid too. So there's like this range of like how you can work with it. And I think like not everyone is needing it or ready for it. Like it's cool and it's fun to learn more about yourself. The other thing that I've learned too with past lives is it's like in everything with spirit, they leave us breadcrumbs. Like we don't know, we can't like connect all the dots per se as humans, but we have like some kind of ripple or sense of it. So when I first started doing Akashic Records readings, I did a reading for this Reiki healer who had like a jewelry business, and she was like, I want to step more into the Reiki healing part of my business. But I have a lot of fear around this. And so I opened her Akashic Records, and then the first thing that they showed was like, they just kept showing this image of someone drowning. And I was like, do you know, like, are you afraid of water? Like, did you almost drown? And she was like, I have been afraid of water since I was born. I can't even like close my eyes in the shower. Like, it's so scary to me. And I was like, okay, because this happened in your past life. And it might seem like, okay, well, what does me drowning in a past life have to do with like my Reiki abilities in this lifetime? Yeah. But these are those little breadcrumbs that were left where like she just knew she was scared of water and not knowing why or who or how it affected her, but it actually affected her in her ability to step into her power and ownership of her abilities, because she was stuck in this fear-based place around that type of stuff. So like, yeah, it's not always cut and dry, but I feel like there's always like breadcrumbs. I feel whenever I do past life readings for people, there's always like something where they're like, oh, I've always been interested in this thing. And it's like the profession they were in a last like lifetime, where they're like, oh, I've always been like randomly scared of this, and it's like something they died from. So there is a lot more connection than we think, but it can sometimes just be like, you know, if this person, let's say, continued being scared of water for the rest of her life, likely it would be fine, you know, like likely it wouldn't really hinder her too much in her life, like she just wouldn't go swimming or whatever, you know. And I think like that can sometimes be like the past life, it's like a small piece, or it can be like a big like life altering, affecting thing.
Yes, I think you touched on something really important for our listeners to understand. Our consciousness can only organically hold so much. And so with my personal experience going into my own past life history, I was only able to tap into one particular lifetime for, I would say, like 3 years before my consciousness even granted me access to understand other past lives. And I think that that's really important to note, because spirit is always protecting you. And that's something that I'm sure you've heard in readings too, people having some kind of fear of like, what am I gonna hear, what's gonna come through for me? But the truth is that spirit is always protecting us and will only give us access to what we're ready to comprehend. Even if it feels like a lot, like in the process of receiving this information, which is why even in the Akashic Records, that can be an easier method for the client to receive that information. But I'm sure you've experienced this as well, where the records will only share with you one piece of information and leave out all of the rest of the traumatic aspect.
They do give you what you're ready for. I've seen that a lot, like in even just like tarot or psychic readings, where people are asking about questions and spirit's like, that's not what you should be focusing on. You don't need to look into that. Like, why are you so concerned with like how it's gonna this turn out? Usually it's like future pieces or stuff with other people's energy. And they're like, that's not what you should be focusing on. So definitely like spirit sees like all of the pieces that we can't see as humans, and they're like, this is what will be best for you, or like, this is what I would want for you and where you're supposed to be going, and like, why are you asking about this? I don't know about you, but I've heard a lot about like stories of other psychics or people that like they're not able to like tap into stuff because it's like kind of clouded even. And I've had that like for those types of questions where it's like, oh, what is my ex-boyfriend thinking or whatever, and it's like they're not showing you because like you don't need to know, you shouldn't be asking.
Spirit shows it to me like a big X mark of like, you don't need to go into it. It's not for your highest and best interest.
Yes, sometimes it's an X, sometimes for me it's like this like vague mist. It's like there's not really it's like silent, and they're like, because you don't need to know. But I do feel there's been like certain people that like they're like, oh, blah blah blah, like reader or psychic hasn't been able to like tap into this for me, or they said it's like blocked, and then I go in and I'm able to do it. So I don't know if there's something about my skills and abilities where it's like I can take and see those things.
Cutthroat.
Yeah, like because I have like that like Scorpionic, because I have an 8th house sun and a 12th house Scorpio North node. So it's like I have this like I can just move through
also Jupiter in your 1st house.
Yeah, I'm just like I will know the answers. Thank you very much. You cannot hold the answers from me. But so I haven't had that as much with like past life stuff, but there has been like certain questions where people will ask and they're like, this is all I'm giving you. Like, that's all you need to know. Like, you don't need to see all the details. Or it's, like, sort of confusing where you're like, I'm not sure if it's this or if it's that. It could be this option or that option. But either way, this is what you need to know. So, yeah, I feel like there's a lot. It's with any sacred spiritual practice. You have to approach it with reverence. You have to be ready. It has to be for a right reason. We don't just know information to know information. That's why so many readers are like, I won't do like death predictions and I won't do things, because it's like, just because we can know the information doesn't mean that we should, doesn't mean that it's in our highest and best interest. Like, imagine if everyone knew how they were going to die and when they were going to die. Like, people would be like living their life like just like shitting a brick. Like, they would be like, it's coming in 2 days, like, you know.
Well, that's also just not accurate, because our soul incarnates with free will, and in that realm of free will we have so many different possibilities and outcomes, which is why future stuff for me as an intuitive is definitely difficult. It's not really a realm that I dip my toes into, because my specialty really is in this past life life work.
I think future stuff, I see it and I think that is a gift that I have, because I've talked to other readers about it.
It's definitely a gift some people have, for sure. I've seen that with another friend of mine. Like, Spirit was like, this is an ancestral lineage gift to see into the future.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I ask to see, like, the way that I experience future timelines is, like, I see all these, like, lanes of, like, energy, and then I can see sort of, like, the probability. So, like, if people are asking, like, okay, me and my romantic partner, like, are we meant to get married? Like, is this my person? I'll ask that question. Is it their person? Like, should they be with this? Like, will it be positive for them to be in a relationship with this person? And then I'll see, like, various timelines where different things happen, and I don't see all the details. But I'll, like, sort of group it together, like, probability, where I'm like, okay, I saw, like, I don't know, I don't really count them, but it's like 100 different timelines with you guys together based off of the actions that you take with your free will and the other partner. And then I'm like, okay, it looks like about, like, 20% of them, like, you don't work out, but, like, 80% of them you do work out. So I would say, yes, it's, like, a good partner to be with, like, because it feels, like, positive. But a lot of the time, it's like, if you're like, oh, we broke up and we got back together and, like, we're trying to make it work. And then I'll see, like, oh, well, like, only, like, sometimes, like, with clients, it's, like, only one timeline where you guys have positive and you make it through. That, to me, like, they show it as, like, there has to be very specific circumstances that are met in order for all of the things to align and pan out. So I'm like, realistically, I don't think it will happen, because you would have to do this exact thing and they would have to do this exact thing, and you'd have to heal this exact thing and talk in that, say this exact word. Like, it's very specific in how they kind of show it. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I love that idea of the probability aspect, though, because then it's not a for sure fated thing. And if, for our listeners, if any reader is telling you a for sure fated thing, I would say that might be a form of a red flag, because, like, you have free will, like, you really do. And
definitely, like, taking it with a grain of salt. I feel like it's hard. It's really hard to predict. I think there are certain things that you can say, like, for sure I see this happening, but that, I feel like, is if it's, like, close. You know, like, will I get this job? Like, I can tell you, like, okay, it feels really positive that you'll be getting this job, you know, type of thing, and then, like, you would get it. But I think for, like,
because it's energy, that's a different story, because you're feeling into the probability of this realm of energy. And that's what we see and what everyone can see. We're all intuitive, right? Like, so
anyways, we're talking about past lives.
Well, we'll do a whole other episode on, like, future predictions.
And I've been I've been correct about a few in my life.
It's a gift, though. It's a part of your lineage, ancestral gift to have that.
Thank you, ancestors.
Yes.
I've done that a few times for friends.
This is why we're sorciers, right?
What? It's like we're in the right profession or something. Okay, so past lives. The way that I connect to past lives is through the Akashic Records, which we'll have to do, like, a podcast episode on.
Yeah,
like,
we
Akashic
have to go
Records.
Dive into the Akashic Records.
We
should
both
do, like, a live reading too.
That would be really cool. That would be cool. Yeah. We both do Akashic Records reading. The Akashic Records is on the 5th dimension. We live on the 3rd dimension. It's basically this giant library that holds the information for like everything ever. And every soul has its own kind of like library room, or some people see it as like a book or different things like that. So when we connect to Akashic Records, we're connecting to your soul and your soul's energy and all the things that your soul has done and will do. And then we ask and we like open up to see specific past lives.
Yeah.
Like we said, you can do psychedelics, see past lives, and then Tylynn does past life regression. So I'll let you like talk
or
more
Reiki
about that.
too. I mean, that was when I first started seeing the past lives, is through giving Reiki healing sessions, and I realized that what I was doing was tapping into the Akashic Records without the awareness of I am tapping into the Akashic Records. But that's a different experience because it's all through my own clairvoyance. The Akashic past life regression is where I actually lead the client into a deep state of hypnosis so that the client is able to see their past life for themselves. So like I said, I only will work with someone if they're in a good mental and emotional place, and if they have a history of meditation. Like that is a requirement to do a past life regression session with me, because if you don't know how to meditate, then you don't know how to relax your body and your mind. And I personally believe that meditation is an art form.
Yes.
To be honest, it is not something that has come natural or easy to me at all. And a lot of that is just growing up with a lot of trauma and being disassociated and then learning, okay, how to ground, how to relax in my physical body. But that is really a requirement so that you're so relaxed that your mind is able to focus and go into this past life, because that's essentially the goal of any kind of hypnosis work, is for your body to be so relaxed that your mind is able to concentrate and focus. You are present consciously, and I think that there is a lot of misinformation around that in the realms of hypnosis, of like you're completely like giving your like the Get Out movie where it's like you're completely giving your power away. Which is a great movie, by the way.
That's hard for people to do, because my mentor, she channels like aliens, and that's what she does. She like lets them kind of come into her body and use her consciousness and speak through her. That's a very hard skill to master, or you're born with that gift. Because humans inherently don't want to give over their consciousness or their body or their vessel or their energy to someone else. Like that's like, you know, like handing your house keys to some random stranger and like, go ahead, just live in my house. Like that's like very scary for a lot of people.
Scary for me. Like I even when I'm doing Akashic Records readings, like I'm very present. I'm very conscious of what I'm channeling. Like it's not like someone else takes over and is channeling for me, which that can be a very beneficial thing for some humans to receive information in that way. But just as the practitioner, it definitely is a little bit just scary for me personally.
Everyone's different,
to each their own. But having that meditation practice to sink into the past life regression is crucial. And then my unique method is I open the client's Akashic Records and I'm using my clairvoyance and clairsentience to dive into the past lifetime with them. And every single time I've tried this, it has always worked. I'm able to see what the client is seeing. It's like...
and I feel like it's nice because when I did that with you, then you're like, am I like seeing this correctly? And then you're like, no, I see it too. And then like I was
saw
like,
the flowers while before you haven't even said that you saw the flowers. Like I'm right there, or I'll see like dynamics between certain people. Like I saw the dynamic like with your love's lifetime, your love's energy in that lifetime with her mother. Like I saw like that dynamic and I felt into it before you'd even said anything. And that can be really helpful because when you're in the lifetime, the emotions and the feeling states are so intense. And so to have someone else there that's present and is able to see it from this grander hierarching perspective, it can be really soothing to see, okay, these are the patterns, or these are the things that we're healing from this lifetime. So yeah, I've never heard of anyone like offering past life regression in this way, because I do it in the traditional approach of like, I'm guiding you into the hypnosis, and I am guiding you to see the lifetime, but I'm also in there with you psychically, which is like a very unique experience. I don't know if I've ever heard of that being...
I kind of do that when I do therapy for clients, and I have them do visualization. Like, I'm asking them to see and feel and hear and communicate with parts of like their inner child or things like that. But then I'm also getting like psychic information too, where I'm like, oh, they're like, I'm not getting anything, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm seeing this, so like, let's guide you this way. But and
I am in a trance. Like, that's how a lot of my psychic gifts come through, is for, again, for my body and my mind to be in such a deep state of relaxation that it's this trance-like state, and the information just comes through naturally. And that's the feeling when you're in a past life regression. It's like, you are there, you're present. You like, in our past life regression, the first thing immediately I felt was a masculine energy. I felt you were a man in that life, and I felt this like weight, this heaviness, this armor, like a warrior energy all around my body. Like, I felt like I was wearing like intense armor and like had all these weapons, and I felt like a low, depressive, like it was a really like sad energy initially. And that was also what love was experiencing. Which is like, these things are so wild, and again, sometimes beyond our own human comprehension, but it is validating when like you have an experience come through with the past life where maybe a psychic reader saw it for you, and then an Akashic Records reader saw it for you, and then maybe a friend of yours like brings up something related to that time
I've
period.
Had that a lot.
And it's like, that is the confirmation of, we are so much greater than just this physical body here and now. Like, our soul is infinite, and that can be a really, I mean, a validating experience to have, of like, oh, like, it's not just in my imagination, because this reader saw it for me, and this reader also saw it for me, because we're all tapping into source, and that's what we're doing here with this podcast. Sourciers.
So okay, let's I didn't really talk a lot about how I do the Akashic Records, but I feel like I want to just like get into the reading.
Let's do a whole episode where we dive into the Akashic Records.
Because I do like group past life messages circles like on Zoom once a month, and like I am able to just be like, I'm opening collectively the Akashic Records, and I do like up to 10 people. It's like 2 hours, and I'm just like, I literally am like, who's coming through? And then I am like, they're like, it's this person. I'm like, okay, and then like it starts, and I see it like a movie, like a first person sometimes, or like omniscient, where I'm seeing it above, and then they just keep showing me different pieces, and I just narrate to them.
I'd love to dive into the concept of collective missions versus like because I've also seen that in the Akashic Records of like, if your records are stored on a particular bookcase or shelf, it can indicate a collective mission versus like, I've seen a book that's like in this hidden underground thing in a moss, or like on the side of a cave, or like in this underground tunnel, and it's like, it's not a part of a bookcase, so it's like an individual mission. And I love to dive into that, but that's a whole other
Okay, so do you want to talk about my past life first, since we were already kind of talking about it?
Well, let's talk about the experience for you of just the initial like hypnosis part of like what it means to like deeply relax the body, and then my unique method of like asking the subconscious for that permission. I take that very seriously, asking the subconscious for permission and consent to witness this past life, because I want to make sure it's in the client's best interest to even go into this past life, because again, trigger warning for a lot of our past lives.
Yeah,
We've
so
seen
crazy.
some shit.
Tylynn's, it's like very different, but like wild. Both of them wild. I don't know, like for the hypnosis part for me, I feel like I was kind of concerned that it wouldn't work because I've tried hypnosis before with like other practitioners and it didn't really work for me. Like I didn't feel like I was like relaxed and like in it.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Yeah.
Relaxation.
Yeah. And like when we were in it, I feel like I was trying to relax, but I was also nervous because I was like, it's my first time doing this. I haven't done like a lot of, weirdly enough, like I do past life readings for other people, but I haven't read into a lot of my past lives. And so I was like, okay, like what's gonna come out? Like
that's why we did it. I was like, let's do a regression for you.
Yeah, because that was like my first time doing like something. I only know like pieces from other people in past lives. And so I was definitely like struggling but I like how long the process was, how you like drop, because that is necessary to give. Some bodies just take longer to relax than others, just from whatever your
40
life.
minutes to an hour is like before we even drop into the regression.
Yes, yeah, usually like past life regressions are like 2 hours at least. And so it was like this cool, we did like the rainbow, like layers of the rainbow, and so that helped having the visual, having the colors, having like the intention of like what we're looking at really helped.
Oh yeah. I should share that. So the energy that I use is I guide people into stepping into this rainbow. Yeah. And then it's like you're inside of the rainbow, but you're looking down at another version of yourself. Yeah. And then we go through the layers of the rainbow. Like we start out with like, where are you? And then we go into like the happiest memory, and then into like the soul's ambition, and into like family dynamics, belonging. It's a whole thing.
I really liked that process because it gives you like direction on like what you're focusing on, what you're feeling, what you're picking up. And I feel like too, because I'm psychic, my body probably wasn't as relaxed, but I was able to just kind of get in there. But yeah, I think I was definitely like nervous because I it's like that internal bias, like how do I know that I'm seeing is real? I have that strongly for like just my own life, you know, as a reader. Lots of readers don't do readings for themselves and they get readings from other people because we have so much bias. We know everything about our life and our body and our feelings, and then seeing stuff like in that maybe like coincides with that, you might be like, wait, did I just make this up, or is this legit or not? So yeah.
That is definitely something that a lot of people have concern about. I mean, as a reader, but also as someone receiving the reading, like this nervous feeling. Yeah. Is it gonna work? Yeah. Am I gonna be able to see it? And that's why I will only work with someone who has a history of meditation. Yeah. Because I'm like, I need to make sure that like you as the client like are taking responsibility like of your own meditation practice. Like that's I take that really seriously. Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely, like, I feel like I thought it would be a deeper feeling, like, because the way that, like you said, like the hypnosis is like in Get Out, where it's like I'm giving over every part of and I feel like I'm like leaving my body, and I facilitate meditation, and people say like I feel like I left my body, but I was also looking at my body at the same time. Like I wasn't really experiencing like that. I feel like I still felt like kind of normal in my body. Yeah. But then I just started to like, the things just started to come in. So it wasn't like as drastic of a change as I thought it would be. Yeah. Yeah.
I also think that's a part of my training and just my energy, because a lot of my training is in shamanic techniques, which to me is like, it's really important to be grounded and like centered in this reality, even as we are traversing through the ethereal planes and understanding all of these other aspects, because we don't want to go into psychosis or like have someone be in like a kundalini awakening for energy that they're not ready for. And that's why I personally will do like a protective frequency around like me and my client of, we're only seeing like what this person has the consciousness organically to be able to withstand in their fields.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, trigger warning for my past life. There is attempted suicide from different people. Substance abuse, familial abuse, death, like accidental death. There's like death of a child in there, 2 children actually in there. So yeah, we'll like also call it out like right before we say it, just so you don't get really super triggered. And of course, we're not going to go in like super like visceral details into any of these pieces anyways. But honestly, as we were going into the past life, it was like I felt that I was like a warrior. I felt that I was like this Asian man in like old time. Like I couldn't tell you, like I think it was like before like provinces and things existed. And I saw myself, like I saw the, like it was like this like greenish armor that I was wearing, and I got the sense that it was like sad, and it was just like one of those lifetimes where it was so intense that I was like laughing because I was like, every step it was like, it gets worse, oh my god, it gets worse. Like it was one of those kinds of lifetimes where it was like, damn, okay, like I was just dealt like a hard life. And like it honestly though, like a lot of it resonated with me. And we're talking about like those sort of echoes of how it's leaving its mark in my lifetime now. Like I have an Aries moon, which Aries is like the warrior, the god of war. So like my emotions is this like warrior type energy. And like even Tylynn was like, oh yeah, you've been like a warrior in like many other lifetimes, and that's why you're comfortable with this energy. So a lot of it like resonated, like seeing myself as a warrior. It was kind of like validating because I'm like, I always watch like fantasy or things like that where there's like a warrior, and I'm like,
or like a series you were saying that
The
you
Witcher,
loved.
like it was kind of like not as supernatural as The Witcher, but definitely like how he's like a lone wolf and he's just like, you know, I'm just gonna suffer, like I don't get to have the happiness and the life that I want, so whatever, you know. And so a lot of those things like really resonate with me.
At the end, we'll go through the whole life, but he did at the end have kind of a sweet energy with someone that he met.
But not I feel like that doesn't
but it
make up for any of the stuff that he experienced. Okay,
so let's start in early childhood so we can because the past life regression was not in like chronological order of the lifetime, but just for our listeners.
So the early childhood has substance abuse, and it has like parental and familial abuse, and then it also has like death of a child. So so I saw like in the early childhood I had like parents who were addicted to substance, and they just were largely like absent, not really like taking parental duties. I had an older brother that was like sort of following in their like footsteps, and he bullied me. I was the middle child, and then I had a younger brother that had some kind of like disability. And because like my parents were like just checked out from their abuse or from their substance abuse, and then the brother was sort of like a hooligan type, just wandering around, the older brother. I was more responsible for my younger sibling. I became like really close with like the blacksmith in town. Like he was sort of like a positive role model for me, and he taught me like how to use weaponry, how to defend myself, because I was getting like the bullying from my older brother. And I basically like stayed in that village because of my younger sibling. And then my younger sibling like had a tragic accident and he died. And after that I was kind of like, okay, well, there's like nothing holding me here, so I should like set out on my journey and leave, because these people aren't going to change. And the blacksmith kind of was like my savior. He was like, I know some people in the military. I'll set you up with them. I'll give you, like, he gave me like the stuff that I needed to go out, and like I sort of like ventured into like this other phase of like being like a young adult in the military.
Oh wait, there was something that was really cute that I remember seeing from that, where you were like in such awe looking at how like these swords and these knives were carved, and you were like in the shop, you picked one up, and I remember seeing you like kind of like going like this, and then he's like, no, I'm gonna teach this young one how to like use a
properly
sword.
Yeah. And I also have two knife tattoos on my body.
Really? Oh my gosh,
So
we didn't talk about that.
I have this one that I got more recently, but like a couple years ago I got this one here. That was like my first knife tattoo. So, and I have like I was like really into knives as a kid. Like,
yeah, you were I remember that feeling from him. Like he was fascinated seeing these weapons.
Yeah, and in this lifetime though, I was into knives as a kid. So like I really like I had like my stepdad gave me like this special like chef's knife because I was really into cooking. He gave me, I actually still have them, like a dagger and like not like a pocket knife, but it's like bigger. That's like Damascus steel, and it's like a special like fancy type of steel. So yeah, I definitely and I always really liked the like katana blades. I never had one. And I was always obsessed with like Asian culture as a kid, and I'm still like Asian food is my favorite food. I had this like huge fan, you know, like those big like fans with like a dragon painted on it in my like room.
Yep.
And for like the longest time. So yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm over here like chopping things so slowly so I don't cut off.
Oh, I cut myself all the time because I just go through it. I'm like going fast, and like I have a scar on my leg because I cut myself like with an X-Acto blade. Like there's a whole I'm just like, yeah, nice.
But yeah, he really was like your father, like the mentor that was really your guiding light at that young age.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm like thinking like I even was into like construction, like creation, like using heavy machinery and stuff, so it totally tracks. But yeah, I went to the military, and I kind of was like this lone wolf where like I didn't really connect with many people and find like community or camaraderie. I had like one friend that was like a chef.
Yeah.
And he like left or something, so it's like a short-lived friendship. Like he wasn't in our like squadron or whatever.
He was also kind of felt like an outcast, so that sort of perpetuated the narrative. But in your past life self, he was such a skilled warrior that he ended up having like a special duties sort of operation. Like he wasn't a part of like the normal military.
Like I felt it as like I'm just gonna show up and do my job and like just be who I am, and then like people started noticing like, oh, you're really good at this or that thing.
Well, you were also strong. Like I remember seeing
you
in that
I was built like a tree. Yeah. Which I really like men who are like that in this lifetime. I do like what's his face, Adam Driver. Like he doesn't have, his body doesn't go like this. It's just like a straight tree. I'm like, that's nice. Henry Cavill is like that too. He plays The Witcher. Oh my god. The Taurus energy. The Taurus sign.
Avatar, did you like Cassian? Was that your
No.
Okay. Oh, okay, never mind.
It's like the darkened tattoos is more. I also like vampires, so that's maybe from another past life.
But not Edward, right? He's too skinny.
No. He's no. I don't like
too
pretty looking boys. It's not for me. Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah, so yeah, I started getting sent on these like special like solo missions where I would like deliver like important messages between like camps or between like people in the military. So I traveled a lot, and I was like more nomadic. And
you had a dog. You had a dog. That bond with your dog was just
which I have both both of my pets that passed away tattooed on me. Yeah, I think the bond with a animal when you're in like that very like when you're nomadic, it's very primal. That's how like human, like we're not having like shelter and all these pieces. And the dog and I, we definitely like we went hard. I felt like it was sort of like a German Shepherd type dog.
It was a strong looking dog.
Yeah,
too.
Like a bigger dog.
Yeah.
Which like I don't think they would have had German Shepherds back then in Asia, you know, so some other kind of like mountain hound type dog.
Yeah, it was definitely like a hound kind of dog.
And I did those like missions, and then like one day when I was traveling, I was like walking past this like home, because back then it's like not everyone was in a village, so this home was kind of like out in the middle, like a farmland.
Like a farmland, yeah.
And I saw this like beautiful woman like hanging like laundry in the front yard. And, like, that shit was, it was, like, in the movies. Like, you know.
It was, like, a Hallmark movie. Yes. Like, it had, like, a filter over it that was soft.
Yes.
And, like...
That's how I saw it, too. Like, it's, like, when, you know, in the movies when they show for, like, the teen movies where they see the pretty girl and it's, like, and, like, everything stops. Like, it was like that when I saw her. I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
I need to know this person. It was, like, one of those, like, weird... like cosmic, like there's something that is drawing me to this person. And then we saw from like the other perspective that this woman, she knew that I was coming, like she had dreamt about me coming. And
I was feeling a lot from her perspective. Like I was seeing it obviously from your perspective because I'm in your Akashic records, but I, even when we'll get into the very traumatic thing that happens later on, I was feeling it from her perspective. So, like, I felt that before I think we'd even, like, gone into it of, like, she was having these premonitions and visions of you, your past life self, coming into her life because that's what happened with her mom and her dad. Her mom saw who her dad was and felt that bond before it had manifested. And so like I was just like weirdly staring at her the first time, and then I was like I need to go back and like talk to her. And then when I went back to talk to her, I learned that it was just like her and her dad living together because her mom had passed away. And like the dad was sort of like, you know, she told me that you were coming, so he was more like chill about it because he trusted her like abilities and visions because the wife had them. Like it wasn't like a what are you doing with my daughter kind of energy. It was like he was so welcoming, like
because his wife passed away, so he's like if you can find happiness, I want you to find happiness. And I feel like she was like just taking care of the father and doing, and he was like you could have more than this life, like you don't just need to be here with me. And so like I started like courting her, and that's when the flowers came in because she handed me like these like white flowers. And I didn't know, like when we first saw it in the past life regression, I'm like that's so weird, it came through so strong. But then like Tylynn also saw these flowers. And then as we learned more about her, we learned like she would give like lots of people like small gifts, especially flowers. And like she was kind of like one of those humans that it's like she just had like the kindest, sweetest heart, where it's like when you meet her, you're just like, oh my God, I love her. She's amazing. Like she sees me. She notices me. She left me something nice. She acknowledges, like it was like one of those people where you just feel like so present and held with them. And everyone, like no one had a bad word to say about her. And so I learned like through the courtship process, like all of those pieces of her. And like she knew she had turned down other suitors before because of the premonitions that she saw. And so she was kind of like just waiting for me. But I was like super awkward and kind of embarrassing, like just because I was like, who is this person?
Well, the flower piece, you texted me, I think it was like a day or so afterwards, and you were like, as a kid, I would take photos of flowers.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was obsessed. Like in middle school, I would walk home with my friends. And that's when I got like an old school flip phone. And then for like one birthday or like Hanukkah or something, I got like the old like digital cameras. And it would be like 30 minutes, 40 minutes to walk home. And then it became like an hour. Because I'm like, hold on, guys. Like, I got to take a photo of this. And they're like, how many photos? Because
it brought you that sense of the peace and the love that you felt.
Especially because my childhood was traumatic. So I'm sure like I was like pulling on like her energy and her love and what that like resonated in my soul. But I've always loved like looking at flowers and stuff. But as a kid, it was like a strong, like a flower with like raindrops on it was like chef's kiss. Like I'm like, let me take a photo of this.
That felt like a really important detail because I had said it before you had even said it. It was like, this feels like it's really important, like with her frequency, like of what she brought to you in this lifetime.
Yeah. And then so we got married.
Yep.
And like the father was like very happy because he wanted her to like, you know, leave and have her life. And then we got pregnant, and trigger warning for death. And yeah, so she died giving birth to our child, and then our child was a stillborn. So that was just like heartbreaking because basically emotionally in my life, there wasn't really much that I cared about. I was very hard, and I had to harden because of my life. And she became like sort of like my purpose, you know. It was like this person brings me joy and love and happiness, and I haven't experienced that. It was like a lot of healing that I needed, and I was able to join their family, and the dad was like really supportive, and my family was not like that. And so like when she passed away, it just was like devastating because it feels like just like everything that I envisioned in my life, all the happiness that I thought I would have, and this new child bringing, you know, like creating a new pattern, new cycle, was gone. And I was back to square one with nothing and no one. And I brought the like body of my wife and my child back home to the father to kind of let him know and to bury her on the land that they lived in. And it was like devastating for both of us because that was like his, you know, child, and he didn't have his wife anymore, like all that kind of stuff. And so another trigger warning for suicide, but like literally the next day, like he had hung himself. And so that was just like in like the span of like, you know, whatever time it took me to travel from wherever I was back there, like I lost like my entire new family. And I was like literally like pushed back, and I found him, like I saw his body and all that kind of stuff. So I had to like take care of that too. So it was just like a really emotionally, like that was the part where I'm like, of course, like, and another bad thing and another bad thing. And then so because I was kind of like lost, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I didn't really care too much about my life before. I was like, whatever, I'll just, you know, I have a purpose in the military, they give me the purpose, you know. And now it was like I feel like I could have a chance at happiness, and then that was gone. So I was kind of just like, okay, what the heck. Like, and I remember like when I was seeing this next part, like I was thinking like, what am I supposed to do? Like it wasn't so emotional, like, oh, I'm sad and I'm crying. It was more just like, so does this mean like I should not like be here too, you know, type of thing.
Yeah, that was the part that brought me to such tears, because I was seeing it from the lens of her being a spirit. And that's the other part, that I would see her as a spirit helping you. And we saw it another time, which we'll get into just now, because when that happened, her energy was still so strong and prevalent within the spirit realm, because she hadn't decided to like go into the light yet. So seeing that from that lens of being in the spirit world was just so heartbreaking for her to witness her father. Like that was devastating. But then yes, like let's get into now the experience, because so I was also seeing it from her perspective. Attempted
suicide. So basically after I did all of that stuff, like I was like, I think I'm just gonna die too. And I just basically like found a waterfall, and I just like walked off of it, like with whatever, like my full suit of armor and everything. Like I just like boomed, and I almost died. I like got like a concussion, and I like hurt my leg. But yeah, I think Tylynn
that's when she came through to you, and you had a very visceral experience with her pretty much telling you it's not your time to go.
Yeah, and so I was kind of just like down there in the water, like, oh, I didn't die? Okay.
Yeah, you were like, I fully thinking that you were going to die. Yeah. And fully prepared for it, because at that time, your dog had already passed, too.
So it's just like, why am I here, bro? Yeah, so I didn't die, and then I kind of was like, okay, so if I'm not supposed to die, like, what am I supposed to do? And I opened this, like, center for, like, children with disabilities, because my younger sibling had a disability, and I was like, okay, like, I'm not going back to the military, because I had left, you know, for my family. and like the way I saw it was like this, it was sort of like on a mountain, like in nature, and there's these like little like huts or like cabins or something, and I lived there permanently, and then it became like a sort of like safe space for people to like bring their child if they didn't know how to care for them because they had a disability, because you know, like back then there's not like,
you had started it because you had met this woman who was a widow, like her husband had passed.
Yeah.
And it was because she had a son, right? Who had,
well, she came like I already created the place, and then she came. Yeah, so it's like people would bring their kids if they just needed like daycare, if they didn't know how to care for them. And then there was a woman who also was a widow, and she had a son with disabilities, and she had brought him, and I like connected with her.
Yes. And it was like this full circle moment of the mentor you had early in your life. Now you were the mentor.
Yes. And we didn't have a romantic relationship, but it was just like this comfort of like, you've had loss, I've had loss. Like, we understand what we both feel in each other, and that can be very comforting to just have someone who gets you. And she helped me because I've like, when I fell off the waterfall, like I had like some chronic thing on my leg, like this like stiffness or something. And so she had like used some herbs and things to help like heal my injuries a little bit more, and we would just like spend time together, and it wasn't like lonely. It was like a little bit of care and compassion and humanity like coming back into my life and reminding me that it existed. And then I just like, I continued to age, and I like was walking up the hill like one day, and I fell, and I like broke my hip. And then she took care of me, like I was like bedridden, and she just like helped make like the end of my life like easy before I like transitioned and passed. But yeah, it was like definitely like a really rough lifetime. And like I really resonated with the message that came through when you were like, what is the thing that I can learn from this life? What is the wound that I'm still carrying? And the biggest wound was like that I felt that suffering was like necessary to be strong. And
we cleared that. Your guides were like, you're no longer carrying that in your field. It's like you can keep this like warrior level of strength and this ability to face adversity without the inherited belief system that life is hard. Life is meant to be a struggle.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like since then I've had like a lot of like moments just in my mind where I'm like reminding myself, you don't need to do that. Like, you don't need to struggle that hard. Like, you can be more gentle on yourself. Because I did have that belief of like, I would really like when I was sore, because it like reminded me that I like did hard work, you know, and like from working out or something, or like I would just, honestly, I would do a lot of things as a kid like the hard way, and like unconsciously just make it harder on myself. And now I'm like learning, like, you can be gentle. You don't need to push yourself through these things and struggle. Like, you can be more sensitive and not be as strong, quote unquote, you know? So that has been like really, like, I'm still integrating it, I feel, because it's only been like a couple months.
That's the thing when you do past life regression. I don't recommend doing them like once a month or anything like that. Like, really, like you can do once a year type of a thing of like, because it does take that much time to really integrate and move through the lesson.
And then the really cool thing was like, Tylynn asked a question at the end, like, was there anyone from this lifetime that we explored that I know in my current lifetime? And that also brought me a lot of healing, because my older brother from that lifetime was my stepdad in this lifetime. And that totally tracks.
Same theme.
He has substance abuse still, and he definitely, like, because of his substance abuse, I would say like bullied me is like a soft term, but it definitely like some like sexual abuse and like a lot of just like emotional, I feel, with that. And like it was actually really healing, because I called him right after
Yeah.
I'm so direct. I was like, I'm gonna tell him right now.
That's an Aries moon.
Aries was like, let me just clear the air.
Yeah.
And I told him, and he was like, oh yeah, that, like, even before I even said, like, pointed out those parallels, he was like, oh, that totally makes sense, because I definitely did those things to you, you know, and like, and I'm still like struggling with it. And I was like, yeah. And my stepdad has like 6 brothers. So like my Gemini Sagittarius was like, yeah, scenario of 7 brothers. Because I was his brother in a past life. But yeah, it was definitely one of those things where like even he immediately was like, oh, I could totally see the parallels of this. And that like he's still stuck in that pattern, but that was something that came up of like something that I was healing in this lifetime, was like removing myself from that pattern that we shared as like siblings. And it also makes sense because we had sort of like a sibling, like he would always be like, I'm not your dad, I'm your friend. And we would like roughhouse together. And like, we just had this, we understood each other type of energy, like minus all like the traumatic other stuff. There, like, you know, there's more than, it's not all bad. There was like, yeah, we definitely like got along, and he's 10 years younger than my mom, so it's like a weird, like, he's in between the generations type thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of parallels from that. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool was like, we were like, did I know my wife in this lifetime?
Yeah, we asked that.
And it was like, no, she's not coming in this lifetime, because like there's something about like the lifetime where I meet her is the lifetime where when I'm born I'm surrounded by all of this love. And
it was like clearing also like some inherited belief systems of like the fear of having that love, and then the devastation of the loss. Like, so that this lifetime it's just not in the field to experience that, because we're clearing that in this lifetime, so that the next lifetime you can experience this like ultimate, like the rose colored shade, like deep intense love story. So
I'm excited for that, but I'm excited to not remember. To forget. So yeah, that was like the whole, and it was a lot. Like I was bawling like most of the time. Like
same.
It was, we were just like, I just feel like I was like, man, this is intense. And then like I just hear Tylynn, she's like, whew, okay, like damn. Like she's seeing it and feeling it too. So it was like we came over like,
you can't separate it when you're clairvoyant and clairsentient, because it's like it's see it and then I'm feeling all of the emotions, and especially like seeing it from her lens, because I don't know why it was so strong for me to see it from her perspective, but that's how I was seeing it, and it was,
I feel like she wanted to be present in this lifetime in some way, shape, or form for me. Like I feel like she was trying to come through you, because I feel like she probably isn't supposed to interact with me in this lifetime, so she felt
like that. There was like a clear like no interaction in this life, but then also her spirit is like, I fucking love you. There's something more in that we could explore, but it was very interesting and sad. But very validating. And then the other thing that was cool was like, at the end I was like, this reminds me of like the Witcher series, which is like book, TV show, and video game. It was first a book, then video game, then TV show. And he's kind of like this lone wolf, and he travels around and he wants to be with this one witch, but she like doesn't like allow him, and like all this different stuff. I'm oversimplifying. And I was saying like it's so like that, and Tylynn was like, they're showing like this like glowing like energy around the book, saying like this can be like a little sort of like crumb of like, this resonates with you, so read this because it will like help heal you, and it will like resonate on the soul level for you, like a guidebook in a sense. And I feel like lots of people have that kind of stuff for their past lives that 100%. We don't know. It's like, if you're just I've had that with so many people where they're like, I've just always been really into this, or I've been drawn to this thing, or since a kid I've always like thought about this or wanted to visit this place. Like those can be indications that you've had like past lives around that place, or with that place, or in the culture, or whatever the archetype is. So I found that like very interesting, because I never played the video games when I was a kid,
And then when it came out on Netflix and I learned it was a book series, I'm one of those people that's like, oh, I'd rather read the book. And I was like super into it. I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this lone, sad
That's why
warrior.
we need this. That's why we need the stories, though, because
It's true.
within the stories are like true history and the remembrance that provides our soul so much comfort of like, oh, that feels familiar to me in some way. And yeah, I just love that we're just naturally drawn to those things that bring that comfort and familiarity.
But we just don't in our brain know why. And it's probably because you've had some kind of past life or something that has triggered that. So, yeah. So that's my sad
really
past
intense past life regression. But yeah, warning. I mean, pretty much all of the past life regressions that I've done, they've all been intense. Like,
and I think that there's like a misconception. Yeah. So everyone thinks like, oh my God, so just everyone was just going through it and suffering. And it's like, well, largely like historically there was more suffering because we didn't have technology and healing and all these other tools and things. Like people wouldn't live as long. If you got pneumonia, you just died. You didn't get to like heal type of thing. Yeah. But also like when you're asking like to see the past life that you most need to know right now or the one that's most affecting you, like it's not going to be one where everything was amazing and you succeeded and you didn't have any issues, you know, like sometimes those past lives come through because they're trying to like remind you of a skill or a gift that you have or an ability or things like that, like remembering who you are. But most of the time, the ones that we end up seeing as healers for our clients or tapping into are the traumatic ones, because those are the ones that are still affecting us in a negative way, or we're carrying some kind of harmful pattern. And so like that's gonna be more needed than like one where they're like, oh, remember this one lifetime where you were amazing and everything was happy and all this stuff, you know, like so I think like that also just probability wise it makes sense.
Well, one of the gifts that we learn from this lifetime though is your ability to create that sacred space, that community space. And like that's also been something on your heart.
Yeah, that's true.
Like constantly being the teacher and like holding the space for people, and it's like
in like an effortless way. Like I wish it was as easy as it was in that lifetime where I just created the space and like people started just coming. But now it's like marketing and social media.
But that thing is, it can be just as easy, right? Because you've lived it before.
That's true.
And also we have karmic contracts with souls of like they were karmically contracted to come to you in that lifetime for learning whatever skill sets, because you were teaching the art of weaponry, but it was more than that. It was a mindset shift. You were teaching people the respect and the honor, and like also cultivating inner strength. Like that's what I was feeling like when we were there.
I think that that's something that I've inherently like once I got past these fears from my childhood as a kid, it's like I have this like no one is gonna fucking tell me what I am and I'm not gonna do, and like if you don't like it, you can get out of the way, you know, like I like you can hear I'm saying it, like I just fully am like I have no fucking time for this. And I think that that's something that I didn't realize that other people don't also possess.
I definitely don't have that.
And like my mom also my mom has an Aries moon too, so she's also like get out of the way, you know? So like
I have an Aries sun, but I don't have that.
Exactly. I know like so many Aries suns that are like, no. But
it's a Pisces rising.
You have more of the sensitive pieces. And I thought like because I'm a Cancer, like it would be more sensitive, but it's like my Aries, I think also because my Virgo
sun.
Eighth house sun is intense. And like I have Virgo
and
Mars.
0 degree.
It's
house
like
sun. People listening that have no idea about these astrology stuff are like, what? Okay, we'll move on.
It's like an inside joke. Like if you know astrology, you get it. You're like, it's 0 degrees Cancer sun in the 8th house.
We'll do whole episodes where we like dive into like the basics. We'll do like episodes on the planets and the houses.
For sure we will.
For those of you that are listening and you're like, what are they?
It's just
about?
Like 0 degrees. It means like it's the raw like version of it. It's the first time my soul is like doing this, so. It's like it comes out just exactly how it's designed to come out. Like I'm not like if you have like lower degrees, they say it's like a little immature energy, like more childlike energy. And then if you have like the earlier degrees, if you have the later degrees, then it's like more mature, like more nuanced, more philosophical, more refined. So like the 0 degrees is like it's just how it is.
It's unfiltered. It's raw.
Mm-hmm.
I was dying laughing the other day, by the way. I was telling Love, like, oh, it's time for a rebirth because we just had this lunation, this Cancer really full moon in your 8th house. And Love was like, yeah, I don't always pay attention to the astrology sometimes. And I'm like, sometimes it's better to just like live your life and
yeah, I was like, I do know astrology, but I always forget that it like affects me or to look at it for myself. And I'm like, yeah, the Cancer moon, because I did like a Reiki guided meditation for people on the Cancer moon, and I was literally like in the beginning, I'm like, yeah, so there's like, I looked up the chart and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff. It was like in the 12th house, the moon,
and conjunct Mars,
and and conjunct the Mars
and fall.
Yeah, so I was like describing like, and everyone was like, yeah, that totally tracks for me. Yeah. And then like Tylynn's like, yeah, you're a Cancer sun, so it's like it's highlighting like that, and I was like, oh my god.
Time for a rebirth.
Yeah, so that totally goes over my head all the time. Yeah, so okay, so your past
do we
life.
Want to dive into it, or should we do another episode on it?
I feel like we could. I feel like we can like pause in between and then I don't know. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, I think that just ended it.
Oh no.
Wait. Am I lying? No, I didn't. Okay, we're good. Hi, everyone. We're still recording.
Oh, we're still recording.
I'll cut it out.
Edit that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we thought we would be able to do both of these past lives in the time that we have, but we totally just talked a lot about like just how to work with past lives and like the ethics of it and stuff, which I think is important.
That is laying the foundation.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't take it like so seriously, but it is a sacred practice. It is a gift to be able to have serious. That. Yeah. So we're gonna do another past life. We'll probably do multiple because we've done so many
with past lives. Like, because I remember a lot of mine. Like,
like I did one with Tylynn where she was like this king who was like,
oh my god, don't give them details.
Well,
they've got to come back.
I want to give like a trailer, so it's like stay tuned. Next on past lives.
No, but just telling you,
these are the past lives of our time or something, some like saga soap opera, and like she was like royalty and like, but it's like very sexual.
But it was also I learned because my partner Josh, he also had a lifetime where he was a Persian prince. And so we both had to have, it was like this realization of like, oh my gosh, the karmic balance of like, you were literally royalty in this life. And I was like a Celtic person who had traveled all the way to Persia just to learn astrology, which I actually have a wild story about that. Jesus. With the Getty Center and an exhibit there that like, and a shamanic experience with that. Chills. It's really, really intense. But yeah, I learned, I'm like, oh yeah, we have this karmic balancing of like, you had this royal lifetime where I was like, just like your dancer. and then this lifetime where I was the king and like you were a crusader for me. Like it's pretty wild. That's the karmic balance.
There's like way more inappropriate things than just that. I feel like Tylynn is playing it down.
I'm like, yeah.
It's very juicy. It's honestly like those like period piece shows like Rain and stuff like that. Like it was very juicy.
I was really happy that Love dove into that lifetime with me because the reason I had even asked is because I was getting glimpses of this very particular castle, the setting, and you saw it immediately when we opened the records. But it was happening in a dream time, and I could tell that I had drunk too much wine. Everything was blurry and fuzzy. But I knew something in my consciousness was like, you got to bring this up to the surface. And that's why I'd even asked you in the first place. Yeah. So that's the other thing, too. Your dreams will give you imprints of these past lives. So, and I've had other things happen with dream time, but come back, y'all, because we've got a lot. Of juicy things.
So we'll do many more episodes because like I do group past life readings, so we can share like other client stories without like revealing like people's names or anything like that.
Oh my gosh, I literally have like notebooks, like journals full.
Many.
I should bring notes. I might just like bring one of these journals and be like, all right, this random thing will
Yeah, there's like some that are human, some that were alien that I've had,
aliens,
some that were like other like immortal like beings, like very interesting. I have a client that like was an immortal being, and I'm like, so you're like it's the non-linear thing. It's like you're still alive, yet you're in this other lifetime. It was very interesting. I had some with like mermaids, some with like nature spirits. There's lots of different like.
We talked about the soul reading you gave me, I think, on another episode, right? Or
briefly.
We might have to dive into that too, because that's kind of similar past life, of like this primordial essence of water, and then like the
we can talk about the soul. Like I have this reading that I do where we look at what your soul looks like without like your human whatever you look like now, your essence, like almost like your nascence, like how you came to be. And that's pretty cool. So we can talk about ours. Mine is very different. I feel like yours is like cool and like
it's very me.
Yeah, it's
like
very
Josh
you.
Was not surprised at all. Like when I was telling him about the reading, he's like, yeah. And I told another friend, and my friend was like, wait. She was like, literally, yes, you are an Athena incarnate. Like, but
it was pretty cool. She had like two different energies, which was interesting. And then I would probably re-explore mine, but mine was like this like Grim Reaper thing. So which tracks with like my energy so much. I can't. So we will see you all next time. We'll speak to you all next time, however you're listening. And we thank you for being here, for being part of our hot gossip.
Yes. The past life drama.
we should like coin it like tales of past lives. I keep seeing like, like days of our lives. It's like, these are the days of our lives. So like these are the past of our lives. I don't know. It's not fitting.
It's like dramatic.
It is pretty dramatic. Okay, so thank you. Again, if you want to support us, you can share with your friends, with your family, leave us reviews on like Spotify or Apple. And give us a shout out, comment on our social media, all the things. Yeah. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Source Seers. We can't wait to hear your take on all the magic we talked about.
Follow Source Seers on IG and all other platforms to let us know your thoughts and get involved in our community.
You can also follow Love at Love Sakratoff on all the platforms.
And Tylynn at Tylynn Mackenzie, or go to my website, templeradiance.com.
We'd love it if you could leave us a review on Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts, and share Source Seers with anyone you feel might benefit from magical community right now. Hail Jupiter!
Thanks for seeing into Source with us.
Bye!